Sorry, I was late. I had to wax my beard. So thank you for everybody for joining. As you can see, my beard isn't going to be cut until the quarantine is over, or until my wife says that it must be cut. I'm trying to catch up with Blair, but it's certainly not going to get there. That's a few quarantines ahead of me. That is. Once again,
Not even gonna
this
try.
is our every twice monthly, bi-weekly, semi-annual Solve SaaSOps Live virtual event where a bunch of IT SaaSOps people get together and discuss a topic, either one that we've just thought of or one that is pre-planned. And this one we had on the schedule, and it's one that I know a lot of us, we've discussed it in parts before, but as the quarantine and manage remote working or remote working and going back to the workforce, and even if we are allowed to go back, how do you actually go back? Our office is going to open. It's all and well, yes, you can go back to work, but how do you get to work on mass transit? How do you get it? One problem we've been thinking about, how do you get everybody in the office? Yes, you can separate people in the office, but they've all got to get in the elevator where they wouldn't be separated. So how do you do that? But as managed remote working is going to be here to last for the foreseeable future, I thought we'd talk about onboarding new employees and the supply chain. I know we've discussed this. We discussed this because we're in the start. This is the end of the 7th week, I believe, in North America, certainly, for the quarantine. And I know at the beginning we talked about this, and then there's problems of, people in rented accommodation storing laptops, wouldn't be covered by their rental agreement or their renter's insurance. So I wanted to have a discussion about the procurement of laptops. Do you just do fast ship models, which is okay, but you're limited by what models you can get? And then what do you do if you have delays? Where do you hold and secure those laptops? How do you ship them out? Also, what do you send out? Keyboards, mice, headsets. Do you send out monitors, especially if you're onboarding new people and you expect them to, have a certain IT setup? And also tables, desks, and chairs. From somebody I know in the UK, they are actually buying some of their staff tables. There's a lot of, of their workforce in shared accommodation or rented accommodation, and they might not have a desk or a proper table or chair to work at, so they have been buying them. And then also, what do we do about rebuilds and repairs? Where does the laptop get sent back to? How do you manage that? And for repairs, what sort of technology do you use for remote installation of an operating system? If somebody has an OS problem, the easiest thing to do is to just send a command and get the OS to rebuild itself. So that's a number of questions, probably too many. I thought about putting it on a slide, but didn't. So we all know each other. There's all regular faces. I don't know who has a solution for this. Who's been thinking about this? Whose leadership has asked you questions about this? Dominic's got his hand up.
Well, my leadership did not ask. I asked the questions myself, and my customers asked, and we've been in talks with our distributors, and we are working out a couple of short-term and mid-term rental agreements for laptops and mice and keyboard kits.
Right.
Which will be sent out by the distributor to each and every of our end users' homes if needed. And we order them on Monday. They're shipping Monday out. It's arriving on Tuesday.
Right, that's good.
That's across Germany, for the short term right now. But that's what we are working on right now.
Is the associated cost higher for things like that?
We have if we are renting them for 3 years, we're getting 4% on top of the device cost. If we go short term, the expected costs, if we go month to month, we're at 8 or 12%, something like that, on top of the total cost divided by 3 years of expected lifetime. That's
My company didn't even think about this. Okay. One of the affiliates decided to hire 30 people.
So how are you?
We're still closing clients and stuff. So, we had to go to HR and we had to say, listen, you have to tell us. You have to tell us. Like, we can't turn this stuff around very quickly right now. Like, and they were understanding about that, but like, it was just something they hadn't even considered.
Right. Yes.
And so what we ended up providing is just like bare bones, because you can barely get headsets right now, and we usually use CDW, and so like you can barely get certain types of equipment right now, and so luckily Chromebooks have stayed in stock, and in a pinch a Chromebook will work for anybody in the organization. If I can use it, they can use it.
Yeah. Does everybody have HR on board? I know. I think out of the 12 of us here, half are with the same, I think, organization, or there's 5 of you from one organization and then some others spread out. Do you have HR on board letting you, and have a sort of an established, at least sort of 2-week notice of a new starter coming in? I know we used to have those drop at a hat new starters, but that's a long time ago. We have a good practice with our HR and recruitment teams, so they know what the lead time is to get somebody set up correctly.
Yeah, we've got a pretty fine-tuned process where there's a new hire form and a whole process before they can get added in the HRIS system. So we usually get at least a week, but it should be 2. Most of the time it is.
Right. But like, what do you do when like 2 weeks isn't even enough time? Because that was the thing, is like, we have an HR hiring process, and like we usually get tickets and stuff and we get enough notice, but right now enough notice is not enough.
Yeah, and I think this is very much a North American problem, because it is sort of 2 weeks notice for leaving somewhere, so it's normally 2 weeks notice for starting. In the UK, where I'm originally from, and I'm sure it's the same for Dominic in Germany and Europe, the notice periods are a lot longer. My notice period in the UK used to be 3 months, so normally we know 6 to 8 weeks out if somebody's going to start. Which means that we could have a more managed process of ordering a laptop and getting it shipped to them directly. But if you're in North America, unless you're next day shipping whatever's available on apple.com or dell.com, makes it very hard to get stuff, to hold stuff. Resellers, maybe resellers have to change their way of working. Maybe the CDW becomes like an Amazon, where they are sort of holding stuff, or a shipping station where they'll be able to build these custom welcome boxes with all of the things that the HR and the culture teams want to send out, the backpacks and the other goodies.
Yeah, that's what we're looking with our distributors as well. Not just laptops and mice or monitors, but what can we ship to them that's gonna be shipped out with the same package.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Alex.
To answer Rose, we typically don't have more than 5 new users in a week. Would be a busy week for us. So we keep 5 new laptops as a spare, and when this all started getting serious, we purchased 60 laptops that we knew we would need in June.
You have all the laptops.
No, that's a drop in the bucket. But yeah, they just got here like 2 days ago, and we ordered them in early March. So
where is here? And where are you storing them? Is that
we brought them all into our headquarters to image them, put them all up in a room, kind of thing. This is a one-time deal for us. We're onboarding 50 people a week. But they're all
what if
working
they
from
tell you
home,
next
and
week
we have
that you
to.
need to do it again?
Sorry.
I said, what if they tell you next week that you need to do it again? That's how it started for us.
They don't say we don't have computers and we can't get them.
It was a dozen people, and then we saw 6 more 3 days later, and then like we went to them and we were like, by the way, we can't get computers right now, so if we run out, we run out. You can't hire people.
I mean, there's not much more to say than that.
BYOD policy.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Like, it opened up a conversation, but like, it was just like, they just didn't even think about it. And actually, so we have 2 different types of hiring. We have flex hiring, which is like a temporary worker, right, who works up to 40 hours, but maybe less than that. And then we have regular full-time employees. And the flex workers are managed by somebody else. The hiring of those people is different than the hiring for HR. The process technically is the same. But like, I don't know, they just didn't feel the need to communicate. So it was like a whole thing. We had to get everybody together and just be like, all right, we understand this is a good time for us as a business, technically, and it's great that our business is expanding, but we're having a problem with the supply chain. And if we run out of computers, like, we don't have a way to get one for at least 2 weeks.
Yeah. Alex, what state are you in?
Florida.
Florida. All right. So under your, I guess, stay at home or shelter in place, don't go into work orders are different to what we might have in the Northeast. You've had the opportunity to get those laptops, shipped to the office and have people go in and work on them and construct them. If this does carry on for those of us in states that have more rigid restrictions where we can't, and even if offices, disappear, and if you're a completely cloud service or a completely cloud and remote managed company, but you've still got, 300, 2,000, 30,000 people, what do you do when you don't have a central office to be storing, setting up, and delivering those laptops? If you can use Autopilot and Intune, you can do Jamf for that zero touch deployment, but you've still got to get them stored, packaged, sent from somewhere.
But we're a Windows shop, and we use an archaic like Pixie Boot kind of WSUS PDQ deployment. But yeah, before when this initially happened, we set up a contingency plan at 2 of our engineers' houses that have gigabit links to extend the DMS VPN to their house so that they could actually image machines on their home network. We haven't had to use that because we're probably not as on the ball as far as working from home orders, but our company at least has extended that through June. So my company's good, and they're being very cautious, but still, one person in a conference room is not really more of a risk than your house.
It's interesting to me how in all this, and Dominic, you probably can relate, how the new remote IT is so similar to how MSPs operate. Because like the struggle of getting laptops to users provisioned and all this other stuff, like that's MSP problem 101, right? Like, how do I manage a distributed workforce? And, like exactly what you talked about, like have it shipped to a central location, that central location provisions and sends it out in one box with all your accessories and whatnot. Like MSPs have been doing that model for decades at this point. Like, okay, maybe it's time that internal teams actually look to MSPs for some, not support, but like steal some of their ideas instead of just, bad mouthing.
Not too many.
Most of our engineers worked at MSPs before, so this was basically second nature to how do we do this? So just throw them on a table, image them, and ship them out.
Right.
Yeah.
What do we do? I keep asking this question. What do we do when there is no central place?
So my organization is looking more and more like that all the time, because like our Portland office is mostly a ghost town, even in normal circumstances. and it's also very expensive in downtown. And I know that at various points they considered closing it. I don't know that they will, but like it's a possibility. And so at that point, our entire West Coast IT team would be remote, including like half of our support, like direct end user support team. And like, I think at that point we would really want zero touch deployment or one touch deployment.
Yeah.
To minimize
Chromebooks.
overhead. Like it's one thing. It's one thing when you've got 7 laptops sitting in front of you and you're just kind of like doing the same thing to each one of them in a row. Like I used to do that with cell phones too. But like, wouldn't it be just easier?
Yeah.
Right? If you could just ship it right to the user instead of having to ship it to yourself first.
Yeah. But this is the question. Yes, you can do zero touch through Jamf or auto.
But most of the time, they require you to have fully unified environments, which is the other hard point. Because like, who the fuck is only Mac or only Windows these days?
Language.
I told you it wasn't just Dave.
I mean, I'll give a shout out to.
Such an American problem, by the way.
I'm not going to beat that.
Right.
I'll give a shout out to Better Cloud's IT team. My laptop broke Wednesday, and they had a laptop expedite overnighted to me the very next. It broke Thursday. It was here this morning.
So what do you
I don't know how they did it, but it was like total magic. It was amazing.
And you can only do that with a zero touch.
No, our IT admin walked down to FedEx and overnighted it, but it was awesome.
Neither of us who were on the call were involved in that, but we'll take credit for it in any case.
So you guys use Jamf, right?
Yeah. But we have a set. It's the same thing. Like there's right now, at least there's no central anything, but all of us have computers distributed amongst ourselves. And so, I mean, the supplies are not high. But so, Kevin Harris may get a new computer, but in like 2 or 3 months, it may be like, this isn't quite so easy.
Right.
And RIP to my shipment of 30 computers that got returned to Apple after taking a month and a half to get manufactured because either UPS or FedEx or Apple or somebody couldn't update the shipping address while they were in transit. Yeah. I found out that they shipped and then like they were supposed to be delivered like 2 days later and they just like didn't ever update it and it got sent back.
That's such bullshit.
Back to China.
It's also like such a whole thing too, because I think we asked them if they had any refurbished ones lying around that would be faster to ship to us. And then I don't know what happened, but 2 months later.
It was literally like they said that they had the exact model that we needed refurbished, and we were like, great, let's order them. And then like a week went by, and I was like, why are these still in processing? And then he didn't know. And then a week later, he's like, oh, I guess they didn't have as many refurbished ones as you needed, so they just like made new ones. But that defeated the entire purpose of the order.
Yes, yeah. So I've got a question though, Kevin. What did you do with the broken Mac? Where do you send that? Pardon?
It's still here. My instructions were to transfer everything off that I needed to, and then they will send me a box to send it back. So I basically needed to let them know when it's ready to go.
Right. Okay. So this is the breakdown that we've had and trying to.
We're gonna send you a box to send it back.
Yeah, it's like
You already have a box that the laptop came in?
Yeah, you have a box that the laptop just came in.
Yeah, I have a box, yes. I have a box.
You can see, because you can use that box, but we'll send you a label. But there's some cases in which
the label that's right.
The computer we're sending is different than the one that they had. So if it's like, if somebody wanted a 13-inch MacBook Pro and they used to have a 15, we send them a 13-inch MacBook Pro in a box. They can't send that 15 back in the same box because it's not going to fit.
Put some extra peanuts in there.
What you do is you get
it's like all that stuff is like those Apple boxes are so tiny.
If you ship all your laptops in like a standard FedEx box, then yes, they can use it for whatever laptop they want.
Yeah,
but if you ship them in the manufacturer boxes, which is what would happen if you did a zero-touch deployment, they would not be able to ship them back. And you're absolutely right. So the other thing we do is sometimes, rarely, I don't like to let people do this, we allow them to expense boxes. They're fucking dirty now.
So
What
we would do is, again, stealing from the MSP playbook, we would ship them their original box, again, distributed workforce. So this is a little different than the situation we're in right now, but their computer would come in one of those standard FedEx boxes that has like a little compartment for a mouse and the power cord and blah, blah, blah. We wouldn't send them the Apple box. We would just send them the laptop and the devices they need, and then tell them, hey, you need to keep this box in case something breaks with your laptop so you can send it back to us. If you don't, that's fine. Right. You just have to get a new one. Like that's on you. Do whatever you want, and then we'll give you a label. Like we'll take care of
for fully remote workforces.
Yeah, it works. Right? Like, slick. It was awesome.
This is just your onboarding stuff. Like, here's a box. Now you need to keep it for the entirety of your employment. Here.
We do it differently. We don't trust people to keep their boxes around.
Oh, they won't is the thing. So
yeah,
you have to have it.
But you have to tell them up front. Either you keep it or you buy a new one. We don't care. Whatever you want to do.
We do it differently. We sent FedEx or DHL out with a box, and the laptop has to be ready to be put into that box, and they take it in the same box that FedEx brings. So that's like a one touch.
You don't have to ship them a box and then have it.
So they pick it up with the box. FedEx comes with an empty box, and they pick it up with that box, or in our case, usually DHL.
Yes, it's it's brilliant for Dominic because the Germans are going to follow instructions.
Right.
Like my colleagues in North America,
they're punctual, so
they'll answer the door. Yeah.
I'm not sure that would work in the U.S. Yeah, you're right.
And also right now,
we're bad about answering doors. But also, like, our FedEx drivers.
This way as well, in Germany at least. So Apple returns or Apple repairs, they ship someone with a box. You put that tablet or that notebook into that box, and they take it at that time.
I think the issue too, though, right now would be that like you're in that situation now. You're exposing yourself. Like right now, you have to.
Well, I mean, but there's ways to adjust that. I think it's really that the American philosophy doesn't work that way. Like sometimes if I get the wrong FedEx person, they won't even come inside my building. They'll leave it on the sidewalk on the street, which has happened. And so I'm like, I don't want that to happen to my users. Like the Americans, I feel like we have a specific culture.
I mean, I'm just saying how we do it.
Right, like in theory, like the FedEx person could come to the door, they could drop the box, they could step 6 feet away, and then I could open the door and pick up the box.
Yes. And then put the
laptop in it. And like it's not the most safe, but like at least we're not breathing each other's faces.
Yeah, culturally there's a lot of differences with how things will work, whether it's in, my colleagues in Singapore and Tokyo are amazing at following instructions and doing it to the T. I'm sure it's the same for a lot of the Europeans. North American seems to be a lot different. And then you've got those variations in FedEx, whereas they'll, and it depends on the area. If they're delivering to Kevin's house in rural Georgia, it's going to be a lot easier finding him and leaving it on the doorstep as opposed to, trying to find an apartment in Hoboken, New York, where, the FedEx driver is just probably going to deliver it to the pizza place at the, on the ground floor, which has happened to us.
Hoboken was in New Jersey.
Huh?
Yeah, technically. Yeah.
You can call it New York. Okay,
when I think about the FedEx, at least when they shipped it to me, I got a text message saying my laptop would be here in the morning today, and I needed to sign for it. So I was expecting it and was ready. If I had missed the window, this was not going to be a good day for me. So that was
not
nice
like you're going to be anywhere else.
That's right. But just from an experience standpoint, it was nice that they set the expectation for what I needed to do on my end to get the new machine. And I got a text message about it, and the driver was pretty prompt. So.
Yeah. We have employees that prefer that we hold their shipments at a nearby FedEx location so that they can go pick them up. Like it's so bad in some places. In California, I think it's probably the worst I've ever heard of. Like sometimes getting FedEx shipments to certain like apartment complexes.
In Berlin, DHL or Post, German postal
the only people
service
use
is
DHL around here. People who are getting weird.
I'm never shipping anything to an address in Berlin if it's not in the outskirts of Berlin. but everywhere else in Germany that works fine.
What's
But
wrong with
Berlin is a weird place in Germany.
Berlin's like not all the rules everywhere else, like not so much in Berlin. If you they lost my luggage there. Like that would never happen anywhere else. And that airport. Oof.
Which?
Oh, Tangle.
All luggage is lost in Berlin, apparently. That's what we've learned from this. So,
all right, so I don't think we're going to fully come up with a solution for procurement, shipment, and providing, sourcing and storing all of the peripheral devices. It's all going to depend on if you still do have an office to go to, the amount of employees that you have. I'm sure that a lot of our resellers like CDW or I'm trying to think of some European ones now that I've forgotten. We'll start thinking about this and provide those additional services where they'll hold our stock in their warehouses, almost become like an Amazon fast ship center for us, so that we can be more reactive, and overnight stuff to people who need it. Does anybody think that we're going to start setting up our own, shipping stations, renting a storage locker, buying a load of cardboard boxes and, peanuts and shrink wrap, and having one of your engineers spend a day. Yeah.
Hopefully not.
My dad runs a university up in Oregon, and he is in charge of the operations or whatever. And they're taking out their bookstore, help desk, a couple other services type things, and replacing them with either a virtual assistant and then Amazon lockers. And they're just going to do everything through the Amazon lockers. So they'll, if a student needs a book or something, the school will procure it through Amazon, and it'll be, so they're working with Amazon to set that all up. And so they're going to do all their procurement and stuff that way. So they are completely hands off. And then it saves them a ton of money versus outsourcing that to, from the IT perspective, like an MSP or something like that. They can still do everything they need to do. They're just sourcing it through Amazon.
I feel like, so that would work if an office closed, right? So if an office of hundreds of people closed, that would work because you could put in at least one or two centralized locations. If you have a fully remote workforce, though, there's still some issues. Why would I work with Amazon to set up
That's definitely hyper specific to a place where a bunch of people are living in the same area for sure. But what a weird way to get creative to solve this problem.
It is, yeah. And for a university,
stuff through Amazon, that's so bizarre.
In metropolitan cities, San Francisco, New York, Seattle, other places, Atlanta, that would work. But more of a spread out, diverse, or spread workforce is not going to work. It's like Rose said. So then you'd have to do some shipping statement, some shipping stations, and a lot of FedEx. Has everybody else's FedEx invoices and expenditure gone sky high?
Two things I would add is now would be a good time to establish relationships with vendors and resellers that you don't have, just so you have a distributed connection. So you can say, I'm looking for this, let me know when you have it, or if there is some kind of shipping holding arrangement you're looking for, the more people you talk to, the more likely you're to find it. And also, if you're close-ish to a zero-touch deployment, now would be the time to bite the bullet and do it. I'm not, but I would like to be.
Absolutely.
I'd like to be closer.
So let's do a quick round robin of people can say what percentage they are close to being zero touch. I would say we are 90% close to being zero touch.
Internal 100 Chrome OS.
Yeah.
We only give out Chromebooks, so 100% zero touch.
What about others, Brian?
We're internally BYOD.
All right.
Externally, we have Intune with Autopilot, but we do need to enroll the device because we don't have a relationship with the I guess, the manufacturer or the OEM to enroll the devices before it gets shipped out.
Okay, all right. But if once it's enrolled, it would be auto-tuned for any rebuild, so you could do it, right? Yeah, that's just setting up through your vendor and setting it up with autopilot is incredibly easy. It is in your link. You click a button and it's done.
Yeah. I think it was more like a limitation with the licenses that we had at the time.
Right. Okay. Rose, your percentage of zero touch?
30.
30.
25% of that is Chrome.
Okay. Brian, for Better Cloud, what's Justine's percentage of zero touch?
Let's see if I get corrected. I think on our Mac side, we're close to like 90%, 80%, something like that. And then on the PC side, it's probably more like 40-ish. I mean, that's like the thing that we tackled most recently. Yeah, sure, 50. That's the thing that we've tackled the most recently, and like getting autopilot and then getting the apps that we actually want to deployed, and then like setting security hardening and like patch management stuff is the thing that we're working on now.
Yeah. Alex?
We're not even in the realm of being near it. Yeah.
Okay.
2%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I added 5% because we have a tool that once installed, I can push software through. That's 5%. That's it.
We are pretty close to 100. We had autopilot in place for Windows. I'm still not 100% clear on what that process actually looks like for us, because I know at one point it still required some sort of corporate network connection, but I think they scrambled to eliminate that dependency. We rolled out a Mac OS zero-touch workflow like within days of going fully remote as a company, and Chrome OS, which is a large portion of our fleet now, we were getting white glove enrollment from our vendor anyway, so that was already zero-touch. So we have some Linux, which is, I think, still super hands-on, but I don't think anyone's getting new Linux machines right now. I think that's completely on hold until they're back in the office.
Yeah, I guess the zero touch Linux would be shipping them a bare bones machine with just like the kernel, and then they can compile all their own packages.
Yeah,
here you go. Figure it out.
Source. I've seen somebody do that once just because they could.
We're not far from that because we're often shipping to our engineering department, and those guys are very particular around what they prefer to have on there. So from our perspective, we're about 90% max, but early on in the conversation with a bunch of different vendors to fill this role. So we're just getting started with that marathon.
Okay, Kevin?
Which Kevin?
Kevin Torres.
Okay.
Yeah,
Torres.
Kevin T.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, Kevin Torres. We're a Mac shop, complete Mac shop, and we're like 90% in zero touch deployment. Like the two things that are stopping us from that last 10%. One is that the different engineering teams all have a different bootstrap process. And then the last thing is just we use Open VPN, and it's just a pain in the ass to manage the VPN profile, but we're moving away from that to using Network Gateway with Duo. So that'll eliminate that portion for us, and it's gonna be so amazing.
Kevin did it too.
Okay.
I don't think that counts.
And John K.
Hi, folks.
Hello.
First time person here.
Thanks for calling.
We are predominantly Mac. We're a 60-person company. So we are doing basically everything we're doing now is through zero touch. Although I'd be curious to hear from the Mac people here. I find maybe about 20% of my zero touches don't work. In that, they connect to Wi-Fi and then they don't get the remote management. Like when it works, it's a beautiful thing, but I find it fails maybe about 20% of the time. So then I have to get on the phone with the people and step them through installing a Mac and then enrolling in MDM. So I'm just curious if anyone else has a similar experience.
I've seen some weird MDM enrollment failures. I mean, we've done all of ours in person, but even then, like, you know, we'll do 10 computers and one of them for no apparent reason will just like not reach the server or like completely stall out during the process or like something like that. And relying on somebody's home internet connection, I'm sure that would be frustrating to make it work. I mean, yeah.
I've had that exact same problem because before COVID, I was doing this stuff in the office, and same thing. I'd have 3 on a desk, and 2 would work, and the third wasn't. They're on the same Wi-Fi. There's no, so.
DEP is mostly reliable, but yeah, it's still not 100%.
Do you guys have any users that are 100% on some kind of hotspot? Does that cause issues?
I can definitely see that causing issues, but.
We have some people that just don't live near any kind of reliable broadband.
So a hotspot as in LTE.
Right.
Yeah, we are actually talking to Vodafone and Deutsche Telekom about problems like these for actually fixed IP LTE routers to ship out for zero trust things. So that's something that we're looking into, but we're, like I said, not Mac, so that's not really touching us that much.
Can you get a fixed IP from?
We're trying.
That's an IP on a cellular network. That would be. I'm guessing it.
I would assume you would have to pay a lot.
We're trying.
Yeah, because you can get those off-net wireless or cellular.
Yeah, Meraki
doodads for your router.
Well, and you can get them like built into your house too.
Yeah, for your data centers, so that you can.
I don't know if I'll give you a fixed IP for it.
Yeah, fixed IP.
I don't know yet. We're trying.
Yeah.
I'm sure it would be an IP version 6 fixed IP.
I'm fine with that.
Easy to.
I don't care.
I think you might be a little bit more advanced than us in the cellular department in terms of at least not having just like AT&T and Verizon be your only options, and they're not willing to do anything for you.
Vodafone and O2. That not much better.
First of all, how dare you imply that the US doesn't have the #1 cellular infrastructure in the world?
and I'm in Germany.
In North America, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not implying it, I'm saying it.
Oh, well, in that case, you're right.
So those people that are getting close to being 100% on their zero touch, for those that were on 0 or 40 or 30, is there, I guess, do you have an accelerated timeline to get you there? Has this now been, popping up as the top #1 thing for you to do?
I mean, COVID-19 was the accelerated timeline.
Yes. Yeah. It's who did Michael, was it you that put the Twitter post in the Slack channel feed today about that guy who'd interviewed all of the Fortune 500 CIOs?
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, I'll have to find that image. I'll put a link to it hopefully in the comments.
I'll drop it in there.
Yeah, it's amazing how this has really re-energized, refocused change, and everybody's sitting there doing the same old. Suddenly, it's like, oh no, full speed ahead.
Yeah, the joke goes: who is responsible for your digitalization of the workplace? Is it the CIO, the CTO, or COVID? So,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And in Germany, it's 90% COVID, sadly.
Yeah, and for those big fish, a lot of times the pressure comes externally anyway. Like internally, you're just trying to tread water and not lose your job. And not stick your neck out too far. So it's kind of natural that this will push them.
I think one of the biggest pain points in our organization, and I mentioned this at the beginning, right, is that we've cultivated a stack of software that is platform agnostic, but we don't have a zero-touch deployment option that is agnostic. Not really. A lot of them are either very expensive or it's either Windows or Mac. And so like, oh God. Okay.
Here we go. I'm sharing just that, that was the quote. Did that come in?
Yeah, we can see the tweet.
Yeah. Spoke to multiple CIOs, Fortune 500 CIOs in the past 2 days who've been implementing a fundamentally different IT strategy than they would have had a year ago. More cloud, more digital, more automation. As we've said, years of IT acceleration being compressed into months. So,
and I think from a technological perspective, it's not just the technology, it's the humans too. So like, people are changing really, really quickly now, where, you know, we would have done a much longer change management process after a tool was rolled out. Like, people are just having to pick it up and get going. So.
Yep.
It's a lot easier to
it's harder to steer the bus when it's speeding, but
for companies and people, it's like it's harder to change habits, but it's easier to change habits when your habits are broken. Like, we're in the situation where all of the processes are broken, so like, why not do this now?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. No reason not to change right now.
Is anybody already talking about opening up and stuff?
Talking about what, sorry, Rose?
Do any of us all live in places where they're talking about opening up already? I think.
I'm in Jacksonville, and we are in like a phase something open up. I'm staying in my house. I don't really care, but my company.
Your company issued guidance to stay.
Yeah, they're risk averse public company run by lawyers, so we're not opening any offices until at least June 1st as of now. So I'm in a good position. The rest of my state, I don't know what they're.
I know there are some states in like phase 1 reopen right now.
I guess we'll find out in 2 weeks.
We're there, I think.
We just announced that no matter what happens, because we have such a distributed workforce, we're going to stay remote until everybody's open. So
yeah, same with us.
Yeah.
I think right now we're planning on being fully remote at least through like the summer, if not longer. I mean, we're also like super distributed. We're all over the globe, and you know, there's no one answer for us.
Germany is opening up slowly right now. However, my company and my customers, we, however, had decided not to go any risks until end of summer at least, with the possibility to extend any day. We haven't, however, taken out the hey, you need to allow us on your premises clause from our new contracts, because we never know how long our projects run. So that's we still keep that in.
Right. I mean, it sounds like most companies are handling it independently of the governments.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think even if the government, like, you know, in the New York, New Jersey area, they're going to open some of the state parks and some of the county parks this weekend.
Right. Like, or allow like limited seating in restaurants.
Yeah. With the first, yeah, we haven't got to that. It's just some of the public areas. Golf courses, annoyingly, can be open again.
But no, like, it doesn't sound like any startups are like pushing their people back to the office. Like,
no. And you know, and even if they do open up on the 15th of May, you know, it's not like we're going to rush back the next day. I think it would be it's going to be a slow, evaluated, calculated return. in consultation with whatever the CDC and the local government and the state government, guidelines are, plus also what's best for the employees. And, the one thing that this period has done is it's shown that, the vast majority of organizations, can operate remotely. So obviously there's a lot of tools, and we've just got to get some of those things finalized that we've talked about today, some of the physical aspects, but the software collaboration side is the easiest part of our puzzle. So
yeah,
we're in an interesting spot here in St. Louis too, because we're the second largest branch of the company, and our local government has been significantly more responsible in their reaction to the crisis than our state government has. So I feel like even if the state of Missouri says that it's okay, we won't hear, especially because we're still seeing a fairly alarming number of new cases in the region.
Yeah, I think we're just seeing the effects of an ineffective federal response to where states and even lower levels of government are taking over and issuing mandates, and the same goes on the public sector as far as companies taking that responsibility on themselves. And
it feels like instead of like going from the top down, it's literally like every level of the bottom up. It's like companies are making these decisions, households are making decisions, and then cities, counties, states, all of that stuff.
Yeah, and in large cities, I think it's going to be buildings. And anybody who's down in one of the World Trade Centers, that building is going to have a policy. They're going to have a practice in place, in consultation and association with the tenants they have in those buildings.
Yeah.
And not just tenants, like also what our construction teams might be coming in through our cleaning teams. So I have to add into the total for folks who'll be working out of those spaces.
Yeah, and I think any company or organization that's paying attention is looking at like 18 to 2 year like planning. Like we're looking at 2 years in the future, not weeks, which is what everyone is talking about. So it's misrepresentative of what's actually going on behind the scenes with companies and cities.
Yeah. It's funny, I'm usually not very risk averse, but in this case I am. So that's pretty interesting to learn about myself as well. I don't know why.
Well, you talk about risk profiles though, like everybody has different things. Like if you're an entrepreneur, right, you own your company, that's a type of risk because it has a type of reward or cost that comes with it. But like when the risk is our health, we have different evaluation standards.
I'm doing extreme sports, especially in the winters. I'm never complaining when I'm ill, but in this case, I'm kind of risk averse. This is a very special case for me. I don't know why. So
I think this was a good time to become risk averse.
Yeah, probably.
Yep. To figure it out.
Not a better time, really.
It's your social responsibility edging out your personal risk.
The funny part is, so this is a good time to be risk averse in regards to like COVID, but this wasn't a good time to have been risk averse when it came to software.
Oh, right. Definitely.
And like moving to the cloud. Like if you were risk averse 2 years ago, being risk averse would help you now, but not then. Like you wouldn't have transitioned well.
Yeah.
So you might stay in this situation, but you wouldn't have transitioned well. It would have hurt you to do that. So I don't know. It seems like there is some balance to it. You need to be the appropriate amount of risk averse and not.
Right, in the cloud. Oh.
I was going to say, Georgia's governor just said the hell with it. They opened up last week. He wanted to be first. And our family is like, we're not going anywhere. And Better Cloud's like, yep, we're not opening either. So,
number one. You're
not going to go bowling and get your hair cut and get a tattoo and get your nails done.
Yeah.
Well, I'm maintaining social distancing guidelines.
I think up here in the Northeast, we're just impressed that the bowling lobbyists have so much power in the Georgia state capital.
How many of those are there? Is it just one?
They just want to go out, Colin.
Yes, I know, we all do. Okay, we're coming up to the top of the hour where I'm sure we've all got other stuff to do. I know I've got a meowing cat upstairs. I've got to go and see what it's meowing at. Dominic's got to go off to sleep because it's almost reasonable o'clock there in Germany. Thank you everybody ever so much for coming. I always love these conversations. I think they're priceless.
Sorry, I swore twice.
Pardon?
I said I swore twice.
Yeah. This is not suitable for children. If you are a child and watched all the way to the end, I'm sorry for the swear words. Don't tell your parents.
Where is the MasterCard ad, by the way?
Yeah. Maybe we should have sponsorship. We could say today's show is brought to you by the letter F. F for FedEx, because we're all shipping laptops everywhere. So thank you very much. We'll press stop on the record button wherever we have it.